an unexpected birth, and the first fight for survival. The morning dew still clung to the ancient oak trees of Pinewood Wildlife Reserve when a gasp of amazement broke the peaceful silence. In the small veterinary room, Dr. Elaine Foster held in her palm the unimaginable Sierra's sixth bobcat cub, so tiny it fit perfectly in her hand, weighing only 62 grams, with skin so pale it was almost translucent. It had been 61 days since Sierra, a female bobcat rescued from an illegal hunting camp in Montana, began labor. The first 5 cubs had been born healthy, but the 6th one was something unprecedented in modern veterinary medicine. Smaller than a quail egg, less than a third of the normal weight for a newborn bobcat. Every statistic indicated this creature could not survive. Dr. Elaine, 47 years old with 20 years of experience, looked at the tiny creature in her hand. In what seemed like an eternal moment, she saw it. A small movement, a weak breath, and a resilient flame burning within this tiny life. Sierra's eyes reflected a wordless message. She had fought to bring all her children into this world, and now it was humans' turn to continue that fight. In the early morning light of a spring day, a silent struggle for life began. A struggle that would touch the hearts of millions and forever change the definition of resilience and hope. The first 48 hours and the relentless fight. The small veterinary room at Pinewood Reserve transformed into a special care unit in less than an hour. Professor Arthur Matthews, 68, a leading researcher in wildlife physiology, stood silent as he gazed at the creature in the incubator. His blue eyes behind steel-rimmed glasses widened with undisguised astonishment. The lowest recorded birth weight for a bobcat was previously 124 grams, and that individual hadn't survived beyond 36 hours. The tiny bobcat, now named Hope, lay amid a network of electrodes and sophisticated tubes. Ryan Martinez, 29, with surprisingly steady hands, set up a system to deliver micronutrient solution through the smallest gastric tube they had. A device originally designed for newborn rodents, never before used for a bobcat. The first 48 hours passed in extreme tension. The team worked in shifts, no one leaving the room for more than 15 minutes. Sierra Hope's mother was returned to her 5 healthy cubs, but constantly paced to the veterinary room door, emitting worried calls. Jessica Wu, the 35-year-old animal behaviorist monitoring Sierra, noted this behavior in her research journal with the simple phrase, "A mother always knows." On the second night came the greatest challenge. The monitoring screen suddenly emitted a piercing alarm. Hope had stopped breathing. The room fell into deadly silence with only the monotonous beep signaling danger. Elaine didn't hesitate for a second. With hands steady to an eerie degree, she performed emergency resuscitation with a microsyringe containing a special cardiac stimulant, the needle as thin as a hair entering Hope's chest. 40 seconds passed like a lifetime, and then a beep, then another. The weak but steady heartbeat returned to the monitor. Elaine collapsed into her chair, tears flowing uncontrollably. The skilled surgeon, with thousands of successful cases before, now trembled, as if she had just witnessed a miracle. By the dawn of the third day, Hope was still alive. Not just alive, but beginning to respond to stimuli. Turning her head toward, sounds trembling when touched, and attempting to suckle tiny drops of special milk from the microsyringe. News began to spread throughout the wildlife conservation community. Experts from across the country flocked to Pinewood, bringing specialized equipment and invaluable experience. On Elaine's desk, a thick folder with the red inscription, "Not viable," had been crossed out and replaced with a single word, handwritten in blue ink, "Hope. When love transcends science and miracles begin." In her second week of life, Hope had gained 15 grams, a small achievement for any other animal, but a miracle for this fragile creature. A 2-4-7 feeding schedule was established with a special formula developed by Dr. Sarah Okafor, Cornell University's leading nutritionist for wild carnivores. Each drop of milk was calculated with precise protein ratios. Too much would stress the undeveloped kidneys. Too little wouldn't meet growth requirement. Each hour was carefully documented in a journal growing thick with numbers, charts, and medical symbols. Sierra's behavior changed everything we understood about wildlife. Separated from her smallest offspring, the mother bobcat developed an astonishing habit. Whenever staff brought cloths carrying Hope's scent to Sierra's area, she would carefully lick them clean, then place them with her 5 remaining cubs as if trying to integrate her absent child into the family. Jessica Wu, the animal behaviorist, spent hours documenting this behavior completely. Contrary to what science knew about bobcats, who typically abandon the weakest cubs to focus resources on the healthier ones. On day 16, Professor Matthews proposed a bold approach, giving Hope a brief period with her mother and siblings under strict supervision. Elaine hesitated. Her veterinary instinct wanted to protect Hope from all risks, but her researcher's intuition understood that there were biological connections that technology couldn't replace. The first reunion was set up as carefully as surgery. Sierra was brought into a separate space with 2 of her 5 cubs, the gentlest ones. Hope lay in a small ventilated incubator, placed near Sierra, but still protected. When Sierra saw Hope's silence envelop the room, everyone held their breath in anticipation. Sierra approached her nose, pressed against the clear glass of the incubator. She made a soft sound, a call reserved exclusively for offspring, rarely heard even in observation conditions. Hope, although too weak to move, much responded. The tiny head turned toward her mother's sound, and a feeble cry, almost inaudible, echoed in the still space. No one in the room spoke. No one dared break the sacred moment when 2 beings, one who had endured so much pain in her life, one who had just begun her fight, connected through the world's most ancient language, the bond between mother and child. After 10 brief minutes, Hope was returned to the special care area, but something had changed. In the next 24 hours, Hope began to drink milk more vigorously, respond more positively to stimuli, and for the first time opened her eyes. A pair of cloudy blue eyes filled with vitality. Looking at the world, meetings between Hope and Sierra became a daily routine, each session lasting a little longer. By the 3rd week, Hope, still extraordinarily small compared to her siblings, could be placed directly beside Sierra for short periods. Sierra, with amazing gentleness, would lick her smallest cub softly, careful not to disturb the medical devices still attached to Hope. Oh, the scientific community was officially perplexed. A species known for its harsh survival instincts was displaying a level of care and adaptation, previously only recorded in some higher primates. Daily medical reports distributed to the international team of experts monitoring remotely were filled with signs of scientific amazement, unexplainable, never before recorded, and most frequently miraculous. By the 4th week, Hope had gained nearly 100 grams, still much smaller than normal, but a giant step forward for a creature that once weighed only 62 grams at birth. The first signs of the characteristic spotted bobcat coat began to appear, replacing the initial thin, delicate fur. When a tiny life changes the world. As Hope entered her 2nd month of life, the story of the tiny bobcat spread far and wide. From a purely medical experiment project, Hope had become an international media phenomenon. National Geographic sent a film crew to Pinewood with special equipment, allowing them to capture images of Hope without the strong artificial light that could harm her developing eyes on social media. Hashtags Opal Lives and Tiniest Fighter spread with dizzying speed. Daily updates on Hope's condition attracted millions of views. Photos of Hope lying in Elaine's palm or nuzzling against Sierra became symbols of hope and mental strength. Pinewood, once a small reserve with limited budget, suddenly received a wave of donations from around the world. Pharmaceutical companies and medical equipment manufacturers voluntarily provided their most advanced products. A manufacturer of incubators for premature human infants collaborated with Professor Matthews' research team to design a miniature version specifically for wildlife premature cases named the Hope Model. The team caring for Hope continuously expanded. Students, volunteers, and specialists from everywhere applied to join, creating a multinational community united by a common goal: helping a tiny life exist and thrive. On the bulletin board, in the break room, cards from children everywhere piled up. Drawings of a tiny bobcat with touching messages: "Keep going. "Hope you're smaller than my pinky finger, but stronger than giants." In week 6, a critical milestone appeared. For the first time, Hope could stand on her own feet, shaky, unsteady, but standing. This moment, captured by the 24/7 surveillance cameras, became a viral video with over 20 million views within 48 hours. Tearful comments from around the world flooded in, "If Hope can stand up, so can I." A woman undergoing cancer treatment wrote, "Every time chemotherapy exhausts me, I watch Hope's video and tell myself, if that tiny creature can fight, so can I." Elaine, who had now become a familiar face on national television with regular updates on Hope, received thousands of letters from people everywhere. From patients fighting disease, to parents of premature babies, to people going through difficult life phases. All said the same thing: Hope had given them courage to continue. On day 50, a group of elementary school students organized a fundraiser and sent Pinewood a library for Hope. Hundreds of children's books about wildlife and courage attached, was the note. "We know Hope can't read, but she can hear. Read her stories about resilient ones like her." Volunteers began taking turns reading to Hope each day, a mental stimulation method that Jessica Wu believed could help develop Hope's brain. By day 60, Hope could stay with Sierra and her siblings almost all day, returning to the special care room only in the evenings for continued supplementary nutrition and monitoring. She was still much smaller than her siblings, but had begun participating in gentle games, practicing hunting with specially designed toys. A professor of animal psychology from MIT spent 3 weeks at Pinewood, observing how the other cubs interacted with Hope. In his subsequent scientific paper, he wrote, "There is an amazing level of adaptation from the entire Bobcat family. The cubs not only accept Hope's differences in size and ability, but actively adjust their behavior, playing more gently, waiting, and even showing signs of protective behavior. This isn't just natural instinct, but a form of social intelligence rarely documented in species outside primates." Hope's story began to transcend the realm of science and animal conservation. Leaders cited Hope in speeches about the power of the human spirit. Schools incorporated Hope's story into curricula about resilience and compassion. A children's hospital in Chicago even redesigned its entire special care unit for premature infants based on the Hope model, creating an environment combining advanced technology and emotional connection. 1 year later, and the journey continues on the anniversary of Hope's birth. Pinewood Reserve was no longer a small little-known place. It had become the Pinewood Hope Center for Wildlife Research and Conservation, with modern facilities and an international team of experts in a special area designed to simulate the natural environment of bobcats with maximum safety. Sierra and her 6 offspring lived. Hope's 5 siblings had developed into healthy young bobcats, their size approaching adulthood, and among them, Hope, still a bit smaller, but no less agile and flexible, jumped between rocks and tree trunks. None of us dared dream of this day. Dr. Elaine Foster shared at the anniversary press conference. Behind her, a large screen projected contrasting images, her hand cradling newborn Hope a year ago, and Hope now, a small but vibrant bobcat with glossy fur and bright shining eyes. From 62 grams to 5 feet 4 kilograms, from nearly transparent to completely healthy, Hope didn't just survive. She thrived. Professor Matthews, his hair whiter after a year of stress and dedication, stood beside her with undisguised pride. Hope's legacy will endure long after us. What we learned from this case has saved dozens of other wildlife in the past year. The Hope Protocol is now being applied at conservation centers worldwide, but Hope's impact extended far beyond animal conservation. In the past year, the Hope Fund, established from donations, had sponsored research on caring for extremely low birth-weight infants in developing countries. A doctor from Southeast Asia, inspired by Hope's story, had applied the kangaroo care method combined with minimalist medical technology based on what was learned at Pinewood, saving over 200 premature infants in remote rural areas. The education system also felt Hope's influenced. The resilience program based on Hope's story had been implemented in over 3,000 schools, teaching children about the power of perseverance and the importance of supporting each other. Letters from children to Hope continued pouring in, now stored in a special exhibition room at the center. Ryan Martinez, who had accompanied Hope from her very first moments, now led an international training program for veterinarians from developing countries at Pinewood E. I no longer see limitations, he shared. Hope taught me that sometimes we need to throw all the books out the window and believe in the impossible. Now Jessica Wu had published Sierra's Language, a groundbreaking study on how the mother bobcat and her cubs developed unique communication methods to support the weakest member of the family. The book quickly became an important reference in the field of animal cognition research. And in a small meeting room away from the public areas of the center, a special group met once a week. Parents of extremely low birth, weight-eyed infants, patients fighting serious illnesses, people who had experienced psychological trauma. They called themselves Friends of Hope. And in these meetings, they shared their stories, found strength from each other, and occasionally were allowed to visit Hope, their mascot, the living symbol of resilience and hope overcoming adversity. In the morning light of the anniversary day, Sierra and Hope lay together on a rock ledge, warming in the warm first rays of sun. Neither knew that millions of people were watching this moment through screens or that Hope's name had become synonymous with miracle and resilience. For Sierra, this was just another day with her smallest daughter, the child nature might have abandoned, but she had fought to keep, and now, so had the entire world. From a tiny creature that fit perfectly in a palm, weighing less than a third of the normal weight, to a global symbol of hope. Pinewood's Hope had accomplished what no one dared dream on the day she was born. When the documentary filmmaker asked Elaine if she had noticed anything special about Hope from the beginning, Elaine was silent for a moment, looking through the window, where mother and cub played in the sunlight. Then, with the calm voice of someone who had witnessed a miracle, she answered, "Perhaps in this world, miracles aren't when we do something extraordinary. Real miracles happen when we refuse to give up, when we continue to love, continue to strive, continue to hope, even when all data and experience tell us it's impossible." Sierra didn't give up on hope. We didn't give up on hope, and now Hope never gives up on anything she does. On the final day of the documentary, cameras captured Hope standing at the highest point of her simulated habitat, head held high, looking toward the horizon as if challenging the very fate that had almost taken her life from the very first moment. In that instant, it seemed not just a small bobcat standing there, but the undying spirit of hope, of resilience, and of the ability to triumph even in seemingly insurmountable adversity. And that was Hope's true miracle.